Hello.
We're live.
It is two of your three friendly, well-balanced dietitians here, Lucy and
Bella.
we're just letting everybody get logged in. I don't know about y'all. It's a little bit rainy and drizzly where I am, so it's just like I went to Zumba and this girl, she works nights. She's like, this is the perfect sleeping day. And I'm like, yeah, that would be awesome. It's too bad I have to go to work.
I know. Today would be the perfect day to catch up on some episodes of a show or watch a movie that you've been wanting to watch.
Yes. But better yet, also a great day to talk about yummy, delicious food, which is what Bella and I are so excited to share with you guys today. It's going to be a fun conversation. Hopefully, you're going to have lots of ideas when you get off of this call. So, as usual, you want to make sure to go grab your handy dandy little notebook, and get yourself something good to drink, maybe some hot tea, some coffee, some water. Grab your lunch if you so choose to have lunch with us, and fasten your seatbelts because we're taking a trip around the world. It's going to be delicious. And join us in the chat box. Mama Kathy and Kristen got the conversation started. Nice to see you both. And we are just going to keep on keeping on. So tell us if there's anything you're most excited to learn about today. Oh yeah, Puerto Rico. We're going to the southern flavors. Maybe Mama Kathy can tell us what kind of foods that she had. She spent 3 weeks in Puerto Rico. So tell us what was the most delicious thing, other than the acai bowls, which I don't think are traditional. But tell us what you're excited to talk about. Hopefully you mostly know us. I'm nutrition coach Lucy. This is Bella. And then Kristen is in the chat with us. And we are your friendly dietitians serving the triangle and the triad. We're also really virtual, so you can be anywhere and we'll be there with you. All right, this one, we want to go ahead and get y'all engaged in the conversation with us. And this just happened to me like 2 weeks ago. So put a 1 in the chat box if you have found yourself in the fridge or the pantry like right after a meal because it was just so boring. Your taste buds were like, that did not work. That was not good. I'm going to need something else. We just want to hear a little 1 in the chat box. Let us know if that's happened to you. If you want to share and elaborate what the meal was, mine was a bowl of oatmeal. Like y'all know, maybe if you know, I have oatmeal almost every morning of my life, and I alternate between flavors. And one I did last week, I did my pumpkin oatmeal, and I put some of this like yummy cereal on top, and then I covered it and let it sit for an hour and a half. That cereal was so gross. It was bad. I ate the bowl because it's like, well, this is like my medicine. Like I eat that for the good fiber to make my tummy happy. But then afterwards, I kid you not, I went to the pantry and grabbed some chocolate cookies to make up for how gross it was. Looks like other people are out there relating with me. So
Sometimes when I don't season my eggs quite enough, I'm like, is this really what eggs taste like? It's not that great.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Good example. So we're going to hopefully help reduce those kinds of moments when you find yourself just really bored or unimpressed with a meal. And we really want to do it with some ways that are going to be fast and easy. So that's really our intention today is to share ways that you can cook your foods differently to make them tastier. We're really going to focus in on those plant foods because so often, if you grew up on canned spinach, as I'm sure some of you did, then you think that spinach is gross, like I know my mom always thought. And then she discovered, oh, wow, this is really good when it's fresh in a salad. So we're going to talk a lot about how you can change the flavor of foods by cooking it in different ways, and then some simple spice blends as well as some yummy sauces to make your food delicious. And I just totally took that away from you. Sorry, Bella.
Oh, you're totally fine. You're so passionate about this topic, so it shows.
All right. Well, you tell us about Julia Child and your thoughts on the subject.
Lucy and I had a good time laughing about this quote that people who love to eat are always the best people. And I agree. One of the greatest joys in life is food and eating and sharing it with people that we love.
Exactly. And some people, I think, feel ashamed of enjoying food as much as they do. And so that's part of our message today, is to destigmatize people that feel ashamed for loving food so much, because it's a good sign. That means that you can appreciate different flavors and tastes and maybe different cultures from around the world right in your very own kitchen.
Who needs to travel?
That's right. Said nobody that's a travel lover during COVID. Struggle's real. Well, I wanted to start the conversation with just hearing a little bit about the foods that y'all grew up on. My mom's on the call, so I can't say too much, but it's hard to feed a family, and you've got picky eaters. I vividly remember being told, like, when are you going to like food that tastes good? Because I just lived off of like mac and cheese for years. There was a lot of chicken and cauliflower and broccoli casserole. And I learned how to make peanut butter and jellies fairly early. So I only remember eating those for lunches for at least 4 to 6 years. But I think Bella had a different experience. Tell them about your food adventures growing up.
So I have a dad that loves to cook. We always joke that he belongs in the kitchen, not as an engineer. But some of my favorites were the Mickey Mouse pancakes on Sunday mornings, and then, of course, some chicken Alfredo for lunch. I was a hardcore noodle lover through my school years. Also not the most nutritious, but definitely very delicious.
Definitely. I love it. Bobby Joe told us that they like bologna and butter sandwiches, Salisbury steak, and mac and cheese. That's what she grew up on, I'm guessing. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard it all, like all kinds of things that people find comfort in, and we're all about that. And today we just want to offer some new ways to add flavor to your old favorites. I'm curious if y'all had this experience. When I was growing up, I was raised by a woman, I won't mention her name, who didn't like pickles. So I thought, ew, gross pickles. And then I got probably to college and discovered that pickled vegetables are delicious, not to mention nutritious, because they have prebiotics that can help feed your happy gut bacteria. So I didn't really know that I liked pickled vegetables until later in life. Also, didn't try sushi until college. It was in a little, plastic container in the convenience store, so it wasn't really high quality. But eventually I discovered good sushi. And then more recent years, I've discovered sheet pan dinners that you can really season up and flavor a lot of different ways. What about you, Bella? Have you made discoveries?
So I was never a big broccoli girl or cauliflower girl growing up, but I have discovered that when you roast them and season them up, it's really tasty. And then you can make cauliflower rice or like mashed cauliflower. And it kind of made me appreciate it instead of just eating like plain yucky cauliflower.
Right. Yeah, that's a good segue into that whole how you cook the vegetables, how you prepare them. Really change the taste of whatever it is you're making. I love this. Mom made me eat canned peas. I did that to my son, and I feel bad about it. But I grew up on frozen peas that are delicious. I don't know why I bought the canned variety. They're not as good. Unless you love them, then that's cool. Good for you. All right, we want to do a quick poll. We'd love to find out what you all like. So I'm going to start that. It should pop up for you. This is not an exhaustive list, so if I did not include your favorite ethnic food on the list, then please type that into the chat box to let us know your favorite. Oops, I think I pushed. I thought I pushed. There we go. Now it's published. So we'll give you a couple moments to pick and choose what's your favorite ethnic food. I just put like African in general. There's a lot of, obviously, if y'all didn't know, there's a lot of countries in Africa and they all have a fairly unique way that they're cooking their food. I've only ever had Moroccan and Ethiopian that I'm aware of. I'm seeing a big push for Mediterranean and some Indian food and Asian, of course. Who doesn't love Chinese takeout? Or sushi? I'd love to hear from y'all. What is your favorite, like, are you more like Thai food? Is it more Chinese? Or maybe the Japanese with the sushi? Tell us your favorites. Frozen always beats canned. You're right, Heidi. I think that's very true. Unless you're making a green bean casserole, for me, it has to be canned. Awesome. All right. Did you all get to see the poll?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yep. All right. Well, thank you for playing along. Glad to know that we're going to talk about some of your favorites and maybe share some new favorites. I am so surprised that I didn't see any for Latin food, but that's okay. Italian. Yeah, I put that kind of lumped into the Mediterranean, but that's a good one, Leah. All right, we'll keep chatting away in the box, letting us know your favorites. And Bella and I'd love to know, when was the last time? So Bella, tell us about some of these delicious foods.
So as you can see here, there's some yummy Mediterranean, falafel, hummus, and pita. And then in the lower right-hand corner is pho, which is a Vietnamese dish. It's like a soup base, so it's broth, and then there's rice noodles, and you can add meat, vegetables, mushrooms, bean sprouts. And I was really lucky enough to live with a Vietnamese roommate, and her family was from there, so she always knew like where the best Vietnamese food was, and she was like, it's not pho, it's pho. And she really got me addicted to it, and it's kind of like my rainy day or sick day go-to. It's really easy to make. Just get the broth and some rice noodles. I add a little bit of mushrooms and sprouts and lime, and it's very delicious.
Yeah. Are the mushrooms cooked? Like, do you cook the veggies that you put into it?
I like heat up the broth and then I add the vegetables like to the broth and kind of like boil them, so to speak, in the broth to get them a little bit more tender.
Okay. Cool. Yum. And then I love that like Indian food buffet opportunities, because I would never know what to order if I just went to the restaurant and had to pick from a laundry list of foods that I've never heard of or know very little about. So it's nice if you do ever get the chance to go to an Indian food buffet. There's one, Sitar was the first one that a friend of mine in Durham ever took me to, off of Durham Chapel Hill Boulevard. And it was really high quality, delicious stuff. And then over in the upper left-hand corner is some pictures of dim sum. I want to know in the chat box, give us a 1 if you've ever heard of dim sum, and a 2 if you've had it. So dim sum is, I believe it's a Chinese tradition. It's kind of like their brunch is the way that I understand it. And it's so fun. So you see these little steamer pots, and there's just so many different kinds of foods. So they've got dumplings, they've got these, those, what are they called? Steam buns, like pork rolls. They've got shrimp balls, they've got stuffed eggplant, Chinese broccoli, all kinds of good stuff. I'm so impressed, Mama Kathy, that you've had dim sum. Was that with me? I don't remember. Buffets. They're so fun. You get to try a little bit of everything. All right, so this is just your invitation to know that today we're going to talk about ways to do this at home, but also if you're like, I don't even know where to start, I find that going to a restaurant can be really inspiring for me to then decide like, ooh, that was good. I'm going to try and figure out how to make that at home. So that's this is your invitation to do that. And if you haven't had Mediterranean deli in Chapel Hill, oh my gosh, please go. Just immediately put it on your to-do list. It's the best, in my opinion. All right, what are we going to talk about today? 3 ways to enjoy flavors in a flash. So let's talk about that first. The first way, which is a new way of enjoying plants. Bella, tell everybody a little bit about your plant-based eating and what inspired you and how you do that.
So I have always been an animal person, and I can remember from a young age my dad telling me what veal was after I tried it, and being 3 and being like, absolutely not, it's a baby animal. And so that's always kind of been my philosophy, is that I just love animals way too much to want to eat them. So being plant-based always made sense. And so my diet consists of a huge variety, but I think a lot of the time we think that's just fruit and vegetables, but that can also be nuts, seeds, legumes, beans, stuff like that. I have beans almost on a daily basis. So that's a huge part of plant-based eating. And plants are very, very versatile. There's a lot we can do with them, as everyone's going to learn today.
Yes, exactly. And they so often get a bad rap. So that's why I was excited to have Bella join me today because, thinking that vegetables are the boring part of the meal or the gross part of the meal is something that might have been instilled in your early days of life. And so really wanting to bring about a different way to think and approach these kinds of foods is part of our goal today. Well, y'all mentioned about 50% of you enjoy Asian food, which means you probably enjoy sauteed or stir-fried foods. And it's one of the easiest cooking techniques once you've figured it out. It's taken me some time to really get the vegetables just the way I like them, because for the first part of my cooking experience, it was just overcooked galore. And then sometimes they were just not quite done enough. So know that it does take a little finesse, but this idea of sauteing or stir frying, especially if you're going with an Asian theme, a couple of things to keep in mind is the whole concept of a wok is having that nice deep skillet, right? So that it can disperse the heat and the way that you're cooking the vegetables. So that way it's not just getting all steamed in the bottom of the pan and overcooked and becoming mushy quickly. So that's one of the important points, is just having a wok can be really helpful. I don't have a wok, but I do have a really nice big skillet that I can use. And so the couple other techniques to keep in mind with a really good sauteed veggie without just turning it to mush is to have it on a nice high heat. So that means if you love cooking with olive oil, I would actually recommend switching over to a avocado oil or something else that can hold up and doesn't have such a high steam or low steam smoke point. If Kristen's listening, you can correct me in the chat box, but it's that smoke point. So if you've ever, turned on the skillet, just getting the oil warm, and then all of a sudden you look over and it's smoking, that's because olive oil and other oils can burn at a lower temperature, where avocado oil, and I'm blanking on the other two, I want to say canola, is better for that higher heat. So getting your pan nice and hot, getting that oil warmed up with it, and then having everything chopped in fairly similar sizes is an important part as well. So for instance, if you're chopping up a carrot and it gets a little wonky and, it's there's a really fat end and then the skinny end. So to the best of your ability, trying to make the sizes of the vegetables as close together as possible is going to be important to making sure that some aren't overcooked and some are undercooked. One technique that I use sometimes as a cheat is I'll just cook it separately and then mix it together, because just always I was just overcooking my cabbage. I love throwing already chopped up cabbage into my stir fry, but time and time again, it just kept turning into like cabbage soup because it's also very watery. So now I have stopped even trying. I cook my cabbage on the side of everything else, and it's been much more delicious ever since. So that's my tips. Anything to add to that, Bella?
Yeah, I think kind of going off like cooking separately, I was going to say that you can always add different vegetables at certain times. So like if I'm cooking with peppers or like mushrooms that I know are going to take a little bit longer to soften up, I'll put those in and then add like the onion or like the zucchini or stuff that I know cooks pretty fast, and try and do that in stages as well if I'm trying to do it all in one pan. But if you're able to juggle multiple pans at once like Lucy, then you can probably handle cooking them separately.
That's why I forget. I've been doing this for a really long time. I love playing in the kitchen, guys. That's good technique as well. And being okay with trying and, trial and error, even if it doesn't turn out the way that you liked it, with the right seasonings or sauce, it's probably going to be just fine.
Well, that's why it's so important to taste test while you cook.
Amen. That's why I continue to cook. My husband's like, aren't you ever going to get sick of this? I'm like, no, because I'm pretty much always hungry when I'm cooking. So you can't taste a test if somebody else is cooking.
Alrighty, so the next technique up is baking or roasting, and these are delicious ways and easy ways to cook veggies and your meat and potatoes in the oven. And you can use olive oil, avocado oil. Sometimes people like to use butter or ghee, especially if they're making like potatoes. And then any seasoning of choice. I love to use rosemary and oregano personally when I roast my veggies and potatoes, and I add a little bit of sea salt and olive oil, and it is delicious every time. And as you can see here, this is kind of like the sheet pan method, as I like to call it, where you can put all of your ingredients for dinner. So that could be chicken, potatoes, some broccoli and onions, and you drizzle some oil over it, the seasonings, kind of mix it all up, and then you can just put it on one pan and stick it in the oven. And there you go. Your whole meal is already on one pan, and you don't have to prep things and cook things separately, which I think is very convenient.
Less mess to clean up. Did you hear that, y'all? I will point out on this picture, just for everybody that's looking at the screen, it looks so pretty, and I can tell you that is not how they cooked that. Because one of the key parts of roasting successfully and getting that nice caramelization is that you have to leave a little bit of space in between your chopped up veggies. Otherwise, they kind of just all steam each other if they're piled on top of each other. So this is pretty, but probably not practical. So make sure you have like a nice big sheet pan to cook your veggies on. And Kristen uses parchment paper, and I'm still using foil, which I'm like, the environment probably doesn't love it. But for even easier cleanup, you can just kind of put something down to make it easy to wash and keep it moving. All right. Grilled. So this one, I'm still learning, just for the record. I love grilled corn, which is kind of a vegetable. It's a starchy vegetable. So that one I've pretty well mastered. But it's similar to that stir fry where it's like figuring out the right cooking timing is important. But often, those skewers that they make at the grocery store, hello, how great is that? You can grab one of those, you go home and maybe add that olive oil, a little salt and pepper, and you've got yourself the greatest, already done for you, delicious vegetable to throw on the grill. And they tend to know what they're doing. So they pair it and make it the right sizes so it can cook all together. I did learn a great technique from my best friend where you kind of salt the eggplant for the eggplant lovers. I know there's only a few of us. Give me a 1 in the chat box if any of my eggplant friends are out there today. Because I don't know. There's not a lot of us, but you salt it a little bit to get rid of some of that moisture and then put it on the grill. The lesson I learned is don't over salt it because it turns out really, really icky. Oh, yay! Kristen and Heidi are some of my eggplant lovers. And you'll see in the chat that Kristen threw in a link to the parchment papers that she uses. Thank you for that. And it's one of Mama Kathy's favorite ways of eating veggies is on the grill. It's so good because, you know, you kind of get to choose how much doneness you like. And if you're just going for that grilled, you know, charred look, it just gives you that little flavor.
Grilling just reminds me of like summer when all the veggies are fresh. You can grill them, corn on the grill, asparagus on the grill. So good.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. That's part of the nostalgia, right? It's like, summer.
Especially being from the north. Maybe people in the south get to grill a little bit more than we do, but summer always meant that I got more grilled corn.
That's right. That's right. So then this is one of the newer talked about ways of cooking. When I was in school to become a dietitian, we had a convection oven at the hospital where I worked. And that was just the coolest thing ever. And now everybody has a convection, not everybody, but if you have an air fryer in your kitchen, then you have a convection cooker. That just means that it's moving the air or moving air around with the heat. And that's how you get that lovely crispy effect. So if you haven't mastered the roasting, I find roasting gives me a very similar effect, but this air fry concept can be really great if you're, you know, especially for people that are maybe just cooking for one or two. This technique is so handy dandy, and you can reheat leftovers in there really easily.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bella, you have one, right?
I do. That is like the staple of my kitchen. If I had to take one thing in a fire, it would be my air fryer.
Tell people some of your favorite things to make in your air fryer.
Ooh, crispy chickpeas. I love to air fry some chickpeas to make a crunchy snack. Fish is very good in the air fryer. If you do like an herb crusted fish, it gets the top like nice and crispy. Really good for reheating French fries and pizza. I'm not gonna lie. Because a lot of time if you get takeout, things are a bit soggy, but the air fryer crisps it right back up. Of course, like potatoes, the center of my universe.
I didn't know that was the center of your universe.
It is. Potatoes are.
Awesome. That's like me and nut butter. I get it. That's what makes the world go round. I love this. Bobby Joe told us that their favorite is bacon in the air fryer. That's clever because then it's like there's like something catching anything that would drip off of it. So that's a handy way to kind of contain the mess of cooking bacon. I have never thought of that. Thank you for sharing. Love that.
And you can put parchment paper and foil like underneath too to help with some of the mess as well in the air fryer.
Smart. I like that too because that's why I don't use mine. I'm like, oh, it's just another thing to clean.
Alrighty, so up next is steaming. And this is actually one of the safest ways to cook because it doesn't use too high of a heat. And as Lucy was talking about, sometimes certain oils have a lower smoking point and they become dangerous if we heat them too high, and steaming kind of prevents that. And it also preserves a lot of the nutrients in the food. In fact, researchers have found that steaming kept the highest level of nutrients even over boiling. But sometimes steaming vegetables can sound kind of boring, like just steaming some like peas and carrots or something like that might not seem as flavorful. But you can add flavors of the world to spice up your steamed veggies. And some of my tips and tricks for steaming are just like steam the veggies, and then you can add sauces like curries, chimichurri, carrot ginger. And I've even used like hot sauce or sriracha when I've like steamed cauliflower or broccoli and just drizzled some on top, and I actually gave it a really good, yummy kick. And steaming is also just very easy and quick. I think if you don't have time, you can even buy those frozen bags that you can throw in the microwave and they steam it for you. And there you go. You have a good portion of your meal ready. And then all you have to do is add like the spices or the sauces that you like to it. And you get a lot of the nutrients still left in the veggies.
That's awesome. Yes. Thank you. All right. So this is a little handout. I don't know if you guys got that when you signed in. Where are my handouts, Kristen? I guess the must already be there because I don't see an option. So y'all should have access to this visual since it's almost impossible to see. I don't know if you take a screenshot, if you'd be able to blow it up, but this is also on our website if Kristen can find the link. This is from a blog that we recently collaborated with. Anyhow, I thought it was really neat to see that summarized some of those different flavors from around the world. I thought it was especially hilarious. If you look at the Indian food, that's the longest list of all, which I'm like, that makes sense. They have, I think, some of the most flavorful foods of all. And some of it was surprising. I actually didn't know that bay leaves were commonly used in Indian food. So that is cool. I'm going to figure out how to share that with you while Bella's telling us about some of these herbs and spices.
Okay, so some of the famous Middle Eastern herbs and spices are za'atar, which is actually a spice blend. It is incredible. If anyone is ever in the Triangle area and goes to Transfer Food Hall, they have a za'atar bagel, and that makes the most amazing bagel sandwich I've ever had. And then things like paprika, mint, parsley is huge. Parsley's in stuff like the fattoush salads. They use it as a garnish. And sometimes even like pistachios are added to some of the dishes, especially like desserts, which I think is amazing.
That's awesome. Yes. I love that. I love baklava. I don't know what all's in that, but I just know that it's amazing. And ta-da, look at that. Another opportunity to take a quick little screenshot. We recently shared this za'atar seasoning mix recipe in our Insider Weekly. We send out a weekly email, and perhaps Kristen can share that link. If y'all aren't already on the list, you're going to want to get on board because every week you get new recipe inspiration. So, and I've found this one, just so you know, this is also available at the store. So one of my simple, quick ways to add flavor is the za'atar mix that's already blended for me. Ta-da! Oh, well, as we mentioned before, Africa's big, so there's probably many more herbs and spices that they use. These are just a few that we've maybe played around with or explored ourselves. I thought it was fun to share this Berber. I don't know if anybody out there, I'd love to know if you've seen or if you've been out for Ethiopian and had anything with this Berber. It's so good. It's like the right blend of sweet and smoky and a little bit of spice. So it's kind of similar to that Indian concept where you just have this party of flavors going on. I think you do have to appreciate a little bit of spice to really enjoy it. Obviously, with the first ingredient being a whole lot of dried chili powder. Awesome. And then some Latin American herbs and spices worth mentioning. I find it's really easy to make anything kind of Tex-Mex in my life and with Latin flavors, so that I always have some cumin and garlic and oregano, and I even have some ancho chili powder in my pantry. So God forbid I ran out of taco seasoning for taco night. Then I kind of cheat and I just grab the cumin. I do have dried cilantro and some garlic and oregano, and bam, I make my own taco seasoning.
Getting fancy over there.
That's right. But then the real reason that I eat food, so herbs and spices, lots of ideas. We're going to share a few more of our favorite blends with you in just a couple minutes. But anybody that knows me knows that I really just eat foods for the opportunity to dip sauce Ooh, what about Chipotle? You're right, Thomas. Chipotle is another great chili. So good. It's even a little bit smoky, more than spicy, I think. Yeah, feel free to tell us your favorite herbs and spices from different cuisines. So let's talk about different sauces. Bella, are there any favorites? I think you mentioned a couple already, like when you're adding to your vegetables, how do you like to sauce or flavor those up?
I have discovered this chimichurri sauce that I can buy at the grocery store, and it's amazing. Empanadas have really gotten me into chimichurri. Those are really good, making like a Tex-Mex style, like you said, bowl. I love curry. Shout out to Trader Joe's that has the curry in the jar that I can just pour over anything that I feel like needs a little bit more of a kick. And I love tzatziki, carrot ginger. I mean, the possibilities are truly endless.
Ooh, carrot ginger. Awesome. All right. Well, let's share a few of our recipes. Again, feel free to take some screenshots.
Alrighty, so this is our little ginger miso sauce, and miso actually has a lot of health benefits due to it being fermented. And miso is a paste that is made from fermented soybeans, and sometimes barley or rice malt is added to it. It is used a lot in Japanese cooking. And the fermentation process also promotes the growth of probiotics, which are the beneficial bacteria that provide an array of health effects, and they can be found in our gut. And the fermentation process also helps us make it easier for the body to absorb the nutrients. And ginger is also really good for your, if anytime you're having some ginger miso, you're doing your little gut microbes a big service, and they'll be very happy with you.
Yes, I love that. And there's so many different ways to use it, right?
You can have it in salads. You could have it over veggies. You could season or marinate like chicken or turkey or pork with it. You really can get creative with this.
I love that. And the tahini, I would have never thought to have tahini in like an Asian flair, but yummy. For anybody that doesn't know, tahini is it's like ground up sesame seeds. So it's the peanut butter of sesame seeds. It's really unique, but it can really add all kinds of flavor to your foods.
Yes, Thomas, you could definitely use this on fish. I bet that would be very refreshing, especially with that lime.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yum.
All righty. Next up is tzatziki, which is just so fun to say. And it does get confused with tahini sometimes, which, as Lucy said, it's made from sesame seeds. Tzatziki is a very refreshing cucumber and yogurt-based Greek dip. And you can dip pita or veggies in this. You can add it to salads. You can add it to sandwiches or wraps. You could honestly probably have a chicken kebab and have some tzatziki with it. I bet that would be really delicious. I personally just love to use it as a dip. It's a vehicle. The chip or the vegetable is a vehicle for tzatziki to get into my mouth.
Right. And you can feel extra good about it because it's got the cucumber in it. Well, this recipe doesn't say. Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah. So you've got vegetable built into the sauce. So it's, it's like practically a vegetable serving.
Yes, and it's got protein with that Greek yogurt.
Exactly. Yeah. So all kinds of ways we're justifying eating a lot of this. I've recently been adding it to grain bowls since last week. Y'all have been following along with us on social media, which we would love to have you come play with us over on Instagram. We talked all about Mediterranean and Middle Eastern food last week, and I decided to finally break out the bag of farro that's been sitting in my pantry for like 6 months. And it was amazing. I'm like, what have I been waiting for? So I just did this already cooked farro and then some chopped up cabbage and cucumber. My protein of choice was oysters, probably not everybody's favorite, but it was good. You could do chickpeas or chicken. and then a whole lot of tzatziki. It was amazing. A couple good points over in the chat just while we're here looking at this amazing recipe. Mama Kathy made the point that if you made that past recipe, the one with the miso, that there might be some ingredients that are going to live in your fridge for a long time because you're like, what do I do with this? I say fridge because any of these that you mentioned specifically, the tahini and the miso paste and tamari, should definitely be stored in the fridge. Good options for alternatives or good ideas to consider is if you go to your local Asian market, you can find a lot of these ingredients and maybe in smaller servings. So that's something to consider. When it comes to tamari, that's just soy sauce that doesn't have wheat. So if you want to swap out, if you already have soy sauce in your pantry, then you can use that instead of the tamari. And what was the other one? Then the tahini. My other recommendation is if you don't want to just go to spoil, then finding recipes. So tahini is one of the ingredients. Am I making this up? No. In hummus, right? So if you make your own hummus, then you've got a great excuse for using up that tahini.
And tamari is really good. Like, as Lucy said, it really just tastes like soy sauce because that's basically what it is. And that's really good with sushi. Again, you could add that in stir fries. You could use the miso paste to make soups or in other Asian dishes as well. So there's other places that they can be used.
Yeah, exactly. I love that Bobby Joe's husband does not like cucumbers, but loves Mediterranean food. How ironic. I don't like cucumbers by themselves. They have to be pretty well flavored for me to eat them. But and then another sauce recipe that we're sharing with you today is for this cilantro lime vinaigrette. As you might have picked up, there's almost always a Taco Tuesday in my house. It's not always on Tuesday, but it's nice to have just every week, there's going to be some sort of taco-ish meal, whether it's enchiladas, taco salads, nachos. But this sauce is a great way to just add a little bit more flavor. So one thing that I like to do is always have a little bit of cabbage slaw with my tacos. And so I'll chop up, no, let's be real. I almost never chop my own cabbage. I let the grocery store do that for me. So I take the already chopped slaw mix and I might mix some of these or pour some of this dressing on the slaw mix and then throw it on top of tacos or nachos. So that's one way to use this. It's also a great opportunity for a marinade. So Thomas had mentioned that fish before, and you could totally soak your yummy fish or chicken, other proteins in this vinaigrette as a way to marinate it and really infuse it with those flavors.
Get me hungry.
Right, I know, right? And then this one also, you would want to store in the fridge. Yeah, Kristen put in here for us to make a batch. So instead of doing just one serving, which is great, but this is a nice way where you can batch this and then use it for the week. I probably would have kept this for up to a month, but I'm curious if Kristen has any tips as to how long this would stay good. All right. Speaking of Kristen, who is again over here in the chat box supporting us, I was excited to have all of our Well Balanced team members share their favorite go-to flavors in a flash. So these are the ones that Kristen shared with us, and I love this. I don't know if y'all have tried the Primal Kitchen. I just forgot to have her tell me what in particular she likes to put this on, so we'll ask her to share that in the chat box. I think this one's a nice marinade, so it might be on chicken or shrimp or other yummy proteins. And then, of course, you got to have a good tomato, basil, or some sort of red sauce because you don't always have time and energy. And what I'm noticing about this one that Kristen included is that they didn't add any sugar. So that's probably a little selling point worth making note of because a little sugar goes a long way, but that's added to so many of our foods that if you can find a food that doesn't really need added sugar, then it's nice to make that choice. And then some of these herb blends, oh yeah, Mediterranean with the grinder, that sounds fancy. And I'm curious also to find out what she uses the Mushroom and Company Unami blend for. That sounds amazing. Yeah, it is cheaper than I don't even, how do you say that? Browse? I've heard good things about that sauce. My sister uses it, but my goodness, it's like $7 a jar. It must be good. The seasoning blend Kristen uses for soups. That sounds amazing. Cool. All right, let's see. Who's next? Bella.
Yay. So start from the very far left. The curry I use in a lot of curries, a lot of the time if I'm making like a bean and lentil bowl with veggies, I'll add some of the curry. It adds a lot of flavor to it. The Italian seasoning can go basically on anything, veggies, potatoes, fish, and pasta dishes. If I'm making like a tomato sauce, everything but the elote seasoning blend is really, really good on fish. It almost kind of has like a little bit like of a citrusy flavor, and it has that chipotle in it too, which gives it a little bit of like a smokiness. Then there's taco seasoning, which I appreciate Lucy talking about because that goes on a lot of like beans, so I can make like taco bowls or like little burritos. Then at the top is Polish bouillon. My dad's from Poland, so he always finds like the good Polish markets, and that's really good for like making soups or stews, even as like a base for broth when you're making risotto. It makes a really good mushroom risotto. And then the everyday dal is like another kind of like Indian inspired dish, and that's really good with like chickpeas, lentils, some cabbage, and some potatoes. It's just like a really good, like yummy, hearty meal whenever I use that.
Yum. Yeah, now you've made me hungry. So good. And we want to hear in the chat box. I wish y'all could give us pictures because we want to see what's in your pantries. I'm sure I have more, but these are the first three, or the three that I'm using specifically this week on the menu. So I mentioned doing like stir-fry bowls. I just stir-fried up vegetables, and I didn't really add any seasoning to them. And so instead, I just added a little bit of this teriyaki marinade at the end of cooking it, and that was just on point. Whenever we do rice bowls, then my husband always pulls out the sriracha mayo, and I always pull out the sweet chili sauce. And so we found like those two combined, sriracha mayonnaise plus sweet chili sauce, takes your rice and veggie and protein. We're using often shrimp these days. Oh my gosh, to the next level, guys. It's so good. And then as you can see, that za'atar seasoning mix was full, I think 2 weeks ago. And I've just been going crazy with it because Kristen put with that recipe that we shared, she's like, we'll elevate almost any savory food. And I'm like, I'm going to put that to the test. And she was right. It's so good because I don't love the smell of it. So I thought, I'm not going to like this. But sometimes you have to give things a taste test, not just the smell test. So those are a few of our ways to add flavor in a flash. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed or a little bit bored with your own eating habits, we just want to make sure that you know it's okay. You do not have to do this alone. So if you're ready to have your own nutrition plan and you're not already working with one of us, then I've just thrown out the offer because we want to make sure that you have this support that you need to make your own well-balanced meals and making them tastier so that you actually want to keep eating well-balanced is an important part of that. So if you're tired of feeling moody and low energy, let us help you find the right fuel that's going to give your mind and body the balanced energy that it needs. So That is now officially published. There you go. I keep thinking that I've started it and then I have to press another button. So my apologies. But what did we learn today? Bella, tell us our summary for today.
So we learned a lot about the different techniques of cooking plant-based foods, whether that be grilling, roasting, air frying, convection, sauteing, steaming. Lots of different spices and herbs from around the world and the different spice blends. And then, of course, the sauces and marinades that just add that extra kick of flavor in a flash so you don't have to spend too much time thinking about it and too much effort seasoning your food.
Exactly. So many options. And some people, I think, are under the impression that when they add sauces, then it's like, oh, I'm adding calories and now it's bad for me. So we just want to make sure that you know that we're banishing that idea. And especially if you noticed, a lot of those sauces that we talked about have fat incorporated, because when you eat vegetables or fruits, then they have vitamins and minerals. And some of those are what we call fat soluble. So by eating the dressing that has some healthy fat with it, then you're actually helping your body to digest and absorb those nutrients even better. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that Kristen was showing me a handout a while ago about like if you're like trying to like build your lunch or something, starting off with like your flavor or style. And I thought, wow, that's such like a great idea when you're in such a creative block. Like think like, what haven't I had lately? I haven't had, Latin flavors. I haven't had like Asian flavors in a while. Maybe that would be a good way to spice things up. And a lot of the time there's lots of different spice blends or sauces within that flavor. And that can kind of help pull you out of a creative block. Because a lot of those times they can just be added to vegetables. They can be used as marinades. You don't really have to do any crazy cooking techniques.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. It's not as complicated as our brains want us to think. I forgot to share at the beginning of the conversation when I first was learning how to make curry. It took me a week of reviewing the recipe over and over before I was finally like courageous enough to do it. So if you're over there thinking like, oh God, there's something wrong with me because I'm nervous about trying something new, like that is totally normal. We don't like to fail. It sucks. So there's that concern about doing it wrong, and just know that every time that you go to eat is a chance to practice some well-balanced eating and a chance to try some new foods. So be gentle with yourself, and we'd love to hear what you're going to try. So give us a shout out in the chat box. It looks like we froze a minute ago, so hopefully y'all are still here with us. And we have recorded this, so if you missed something, then no worries. You can go back and listen again. You're going to get the replay tomorrow. So anyhow, the call to action now is, what are you going to do with all of these ideas? Are you considering maybe trying out a new spice blend? Have you booked reservations at a yummy ethnic restaurant that you've been thinking about trying? Finding a different way to prepare a vegetable? All kinds of ideas. So we'd love to hear what is on your mind. What are you guys going to try out? Don't everybody type in the box at once. Oh my gosh, I was talking to somebody yesterday. She's, it's really interesting. We're in really interesting times. And, we were talking about it today, and it's just like thinking about my diet feels like a luxury. And we just really appreciate y'all taking time to come today and talk about this stuff with us. Love it. Bobby Joe's going to try some more Mediterranean dishes, sauces for bowls. It's a game changer. And za'atar, super good. I found that at Lidl. I went back to try and find it again, and it was not there, but I'm sure there's other places that sell it. Thomas is going to try pan baking. Ooh, yeah. the sheet pan meals, Thomas, it's a game changer. There's no more excuses. Once you've mastered sheet pans, you got to cook at least 2 nights a week.
Everyone's going to want to come to your house for dinner, so be careful.
That's right. That's right. And feel free to share any additional questions or thoughts in that chat box. We are so glad that y'all joined us today. Can't holy sheep.
My new favorite dad joke.
As we said before, we're here for you. We've got all kinds of different ways to support you. I forgot to mention, my apologies. Our private Facebook group, Nutrition Know-How for a Well Balanced Life. If you are on Facebook, you should hop on. We've got fun little interactive posts, and Kristen's in there sharing ways to enjoy delicious produce, all kinds of fun things. So I'm going to share a little link to that. Hopefully it's to everybody. Yeah. Nutrition Know-How. So that's free. You can book your clarity call, also free. Join us on Instagram, totally free. Look at all this, y'all. It doesn't matter if you're paying $5 a gallon at the gas tank. Let's not talk about that. Our services are often covered by your insurance company as well. So that way we can continue to provide you the support you need, even when you're thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to buy groceries and gas this week? Holy cow. The struggle's real, guys, and we are here for you. So feel free to reach out, connect with us, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Oh, yeah. Teaser. Bella, what are we talking about next month?
A little bit about gut health. Remember, it's not you, it's your gut.
That's right. It's not you, it's your gut. So fun. So hopefully you all have some great ideas and inspiration today. And we will see you right back here next month. It's going to be, I believe, April 20th is Wednesday that we'll be doing this again. So invite your friends. If you know anybody that's got some questions about what's going on with their gut, why is this happening, we got some answers.
Yes, we do.
Cool beans. All right. I'm going to go ahead and log us off. Y'all have a wonderful Wednesday. Stay warm and dry. Keep your head up. We got this. Enjoy the journey.
Bye, y'all.